Okay, so hopefully you're all in the right place. This is Digital Tools for Architects 2, Architecture 136 for the spring 2015 semester. I will make a quick note that the naming conventions for the class are changing, and I'm in the process of kind of changing it. Technically, Archie 136 this semester is Digital Tools for Architects 2. Next semester in the fall, it's going to be renamed to just Digital Tools for Architects. The Digital Tools for Architects 135, will be renamed to Digital Tools for Designers. So there's some name things that are changing, and the website may start to see some of those updates as we go along in the semester. But you guys are effectively Digital Tools for Architects 2, which is Rhino and Vray. There's a fair number of familiar faces, so I apologize if I bore you a little bit with some background information. Those of you that are in my morning class, you get basically the same thing twice. Too bad for you, right? But I want to talk a little bit about myself so that you know why I'm here teaching you. My name is Grant Adams. I've been a teacher here since 2007. I was originally hired to teach the 135 class, which is the first class that I teach in the mornings. I have an undergraduate degree in architecture from UC Berkeley. I also have my master's from UC Berkeley. I got my MArch in 2007. And I taught at Berkeley these same kinds of classes, which is why I kind of naturally spilled over into this. I'm an associate professor here, which basically means that I'm here 2 days a week and not the other days of the week. So if you're looking for me, I'm only here on Mondays and Wednesdays. I won't be here on the other days unless I'm coming to guest review or something like that. I do have my own company, and I have my own job, so to speak, outside of this life, but I am here on Mondays and Wednesdays. I tend to get here very early in the morning. I'm usually here about 6. So if you really need to talk to me, that's the earliest you can talk to me. But I have an 8 a.m. class, which is the first 135 class. It goes until this class. Then we have this class afterward. And then after this class at 2, from 2 to 3, I have office hours. I tend to be here until about 5. So even if it's not my official office hour time, and you need to talk to me, just come find me, as long as it's a Monday or a Wednesday. My email is gadams@dvc.edu. You're more than welcome to email me whenever, whatever. I reserve the right not to respond to you right away if it's midnight or something like that. I also give you my phone number so you can text me. A lot of times you'll get stuck on something and you need a little bit of quick help, or if you're not going to be at class, I ask that you email me or text me in advance. That being said, I reserve the right, A, not to answer, or B, not to answer a text message if it's too late or whatever. So don't abuse the privilege, but I think it's important in case you get stuck or something. I've never had a problem with that. And like I said, my office hours are on Mondays and Wednesdays. So there is a website associated with this class. It's digitaltoolsforarchitects.com. You're going to visit the site. If you already have an account, sorry, I'm recovering, my voice is recovering, so I have to keep drinking. And I will probably cough too. You will need to visit the website for your exercises and your assignments. There's a lot of important course information. The calendar's on there, the syllabus is on there. Basically anything you could need relating to the class should be on there. You're going to post your exercise and assignments when they're due. You're also going to look at a variety of tutorials, hints, little videos, walkthroughs, all that stuff that's on there. And you'll also comment on other students' work for the class. So, important thing to recognize, if you've already been in the 135 class, even if it's a couple semesters ago, you still have an active account. You can use the same account. You should use the same account. You might have to do the password recovery to get it back. If you don't have an account, we're going to register today, so you'll be good to go. Interspersed with the slides are just random renderings and images and stuff for fun. So the course schedule, you're all here, so I guess you probably know the course schedule by now. From 11 to 11:50 is the lecture portion of the class. That is a very loose time frame. Sometimes I'll be done quickly and you'll have a lot of time to work. Sometimes it'll take me a long time to get through what I'm lecturing on. Sometimes I'll lecture a bit in the beginning, we'll do some work, and then I'll lecture again in the middle. It just depends on what we're doing. When we're covering things like Rhino and Vray, specifically when we get into Vray, there will be times where we have to let something render for a while. And it'll just have to happen, and that's why the lecture will be split, because I have to let it render for a while so you can see the result. Lab is from 12 to 1:50. Now I recognize in this class it's kind of an awkward time frame, right? We start at 11, we go right through lunch, and we end at 2. A lot of you probably have class right after this in either the 221 or the 220. I forget whether they're on the same day this semester. How many people are in the class right after this? Not that many. Well, maybe you're just shy, right? You don't have to be shy with me. I promise. I won't bite. If you have a class right after this, it's really awkward because there's not a lunch break, right? And since this is right over lunch, I recognize that you don't have a lunch break. So if you need some time to go eat some food and keep going, right, by all means, just step out and have your food, okay? I don't run this as a particularly tight ship. I'm not going to sit there and say, you left, and I'm going to dock you points. I don't run it that way. You guys are all grown up. You're all adults. You can deal with it. If you need to go eat, you need to go get some food, by all means, do it. If you need to go to the bathroom, do it. I don't need to know about it. You just go do it, okay? The work that you produce is the important part, okay? That being said, not showing up at all is not a good idea, okay? So this is the course description. It's included on the syllabus. I don't need to read it. Basically, this is about 3D modeling and rendering, and the two together. And we're going to be using Rhino, and we're going to be using Vray, which are two of the most powerful modeling and rendering things out there. And so this is about that. 2 pieces of software we're going to learn. Not a surprise. Rhino, Vray. The two come together. I used to teach a whole bunch of Rhino in the beginning, and then we did a whole bunch of Vray at the end. And I've found that it's a lot more rewarding if we do a little bit of both. So we'll do some Rhino, then we'll go into Vray, we'll do some rendering, then we'll go back and do some more Rhino, then we'll go back into Vray, do some more rendering. So each time we flip back and forth, the complexity builds, right? So we'll start with some of the basics of Rhino modeling so we can model some stuff. Then we'll do some basic rendering, right? Then we'll jump forward, we'll do some more complex modeling in Rhino, then we'll come back and do a little bit more complex rendering. And so we keep building up as the semester goes on, adding more and more layers to it. It doesn't hurt if you have a little bit of Photoshop skill, specifically when we get to the end. Sorry, it'll come back in a second. Because a little bit of Photoshop goes a long way. So if you've never done Photoshop, I will show you a few techniques that might help. Hopefully motivating you to take the 135 class so you can learn the Photoshop part. If you've already taken 135, you already have the Photoshop part, by all means use Photoshop, even though it's not officially sanctioned in the class. Okay? There is a required textbook for the class. It's the Digital Tools for Architects Handbook that I wrote. It's basically a collection of all the tutorials and stuff that you're going to be using in this class. Don't forget to look for coupon codes to try to make the price go down. Right? I have no problem if you take money away from the publisher. I don't set the price, they deal with it. Okay? But that being said, if you Google Lulu coupon codes, you'll probably find some discounts. And if you already have taken the class, you already have the book, use that book. It's the same book, no matter which class you take. Okay? The other thing that if you're planning on buying it, because you don't already have it, please wait to buy it until Wednesday. I have some updates that I want to do for the book, and I want them to be finished before you buy it. No reason to buy the outdated book if you can wait. So hold off for 2 days. Let me make a couple updates to it, finish those updates, and then you can buy it. Okay? So this is the kind of thing that we're going to be doing, right? Fun renderings. Grading, the all-important grading question. Okay? There is no midterm, there is no final exam for the class. There is a final project that we'll do, and I'll show you a bunch of renderings that people have done for that. Your grade is based on 4 things. 1, your lab exercises being 20%. 2, your assignments being 40%. 3, your final project, which is 30%. And the last is your participation, which is 10%. And that includes both comments and just being here and being attentive and that sort of thing. Okay? I try very hard to have this course be very consistent in its workload. If you've taken 135, the other counterpart to this class, I think 135 has more assignments, but this one may require a little bit more time outside of class because of the renderings, and you'll need to let the renderings run. You've probably already seen at the end of a semester a bunch of notes taped on computers. Please don't touch this computer, it's rendering, right? That happens. That's a lot of time for this class. So be aware. There are some things that we will do that will shorten the time pretty dramatically. We're going to do network rendering. We'll do a bunch of stuff that will help that. But it's important to recognize that it does take some time outside of class, though it might not be attentive time. You might just have to let the computers run. So it's designed as a pretty consistent workload, the idea being that if you stay on top of it and you do the work, you should do well. Okay, so let's talk about these in a little bit more detail. And again, if you've already taken the 135 class, this is basically exactly the same setup, so you're familiar with it. Okay, lab exercises are worth 20% of your overall grade. They're designed to be completed during the lab portion of the class, so you shouldn't have to do anything outside. Occasionally, you might have to let the rendering run a little bit longer and post it a little bit later, which is not a problem. Most of the time, you should be able to finish during class and be able to post it. Okay, they're due at the end of the lab period unless it's one of those days where we have to have a little more rendering time or whatever, in which case they'll be due before the next class is done. Exercises are not meant to be there's not a right and a wrong, right? Play around with things, try things. If it doesn't turn out or something doesn't look right or it has a black box and you didn't want it to have a black box or whatever, it's totally okay, right? It's a pass, not pass sort of thing. If you do it and you post it, you get 100%. If you don't do it and you don't post it, you get a 0. It's very easy, right? There's nothing fancy about it. And that's the way it's meant to be. Okay? Assignments, on the other hand, are generally a little bit larger, generally will require some design sense, some work outside of class, some modeling time outside of class. They're going to be based on the skills that you've learned. So in the lab exercises, you'll be learning skills, right? I'll be teaching you how to build things. I'll teach you, the sweep along a rail command. I'll teach you a bunch of these different commands. You will then interpret them and build something. So for example, the first assignment 201, I'm going to ask you to build a table and a chair. Okay? You will be using all the skills that we learn up until you do that assignment to build your table and chair, right? But it's not just graded on, yes, I could make a cylinder, right? It's graded on, what does the overall chair look like, right? How well is it rendered? What does the texture mapping look like? That kind of thing, okay? So it'll make sense when we go along, okay? Collectively, the assignments are worth about 40%. Last semester, I had 4 assignments total, so that meant they were worth about 10% each. But that number can vary. I'm not sure the exact number of assignments. I kind of vary it depending on how much time and how the class is doing and that sort of thing. Okay. On any of the assignments, you can elect to do a regrade, right? Let's say you do your table and chair, and I give you a C on it because you did a really lousy job. Okay. You could say, I want to redo this. I wasn't happy with a C. I want to get an A on it. I'm going to remodel it. I'm going to re-render it. I'm going to turn it in. Okay. That's a regrade. That regrade will happen at the end of the semester. Okay, so I'll look back and say, did you regrade anything? Did you resubmit anything? I'll do the regrade. I'll replace your grade. Okay, you can do it once per assignment. When that happens, though, if you did it and you did a worse job, your grade will go down. If you do, it's just a fresh look at it, right? I'll regrade it completely as if I'd never seen your first one. Does that make sense? Right? Most of the time, the grades go up. Sometimes the grades stay the same. On rare occasions, they go down if you really screwed it up somehow. Okay, so the other thing I would add to it is if you plan on doing a regrade, do it earlier rather than later, right? Don't wait until the end and think you're going to redo all your assignments because you won't have time, right? You'll be working on some other class. So course participation, after a lot of the exercises and assignments, you'll be required to give some constructive feedback to your classmates through the website, and that basically means you're going to make some comments. Now, in the 135 class, it's a very absolute, pretty much every time you're going to be giving comments. In this class, there will be a lot of things where everybody makes the same thing, right? Because we have to learn some basic skills. I'll give you something that we're going to be making. You guys will model exactly what I'm modeling, and everybody will turn in the same thing, right? It doesn't make sense for you to comment on that, so I'll let you out of commenting, right? In this class, I will try to always say, you should comment on this exercise at the end of the exercise so that you know this is one that you have to comment, right? So there will be fewer comments in this class than there are required in 135. Okay? The idea here is that it's not possible for me to give constructive feedback to everybody all the time, but if you're getting feedback along the way, it will make you a better designer. The other factor in this is it's really a good thing for you as somebody interested in the architectural field who is becoming a full-time architecture student on that trajectory, to learn how to critique and how to talk about architecture and how to articulate what works and what doesn't. And this is a good way of practicing that. So it's important that you do it. Okay? It ends up being part of your participation grade. It's about half of that, so about 5% of your overall grade. You will get some feedback along the way in terms of how many comments you've made and that sort of thing when you get your grade sheets. Okay? So in terms of materials for this class, you must have a 32 gigabyte or larger flash drive. All right, and it used to be relatively relaxed about this. You can bring in any flash drive. I don't really care. The truth is, I want you to go get a big flash drive. You are going to, this semester, store a bunch of materials on your flash drive. You're going to store a bunch of Rhino files. I've had Rhino files up to 1 gig in size, so you need space. So I would say 32 is definitely the minimum. And a 32 gig drive is what, like $12 now? I mean, I remember when you could get a 1 gigabyte drive and it was like $100, right? So things are relatively cheap. I'm only asking for like $15 worth. You can order it on Amazon or whatever. But you should bring it or a similar drive to class on Wednesday, because we will use it and start to set it up. You'll download a material library and that sort of thing so you can get ready. Okay? Please, I'm telling you this right now, right? I'll probably beat this one more time into you next class. Please don't lose it. Please don't leave it behind, right? Don't run over it with your car. Don't put it in your pocket and then wash your jeans, whatever, right? Your flash drive is your responsibility, right? And I don't want to be harsh about it, but if you come to me in the middle of the semester and say, I lost my flash drive, I lost all my work, I will say, it's not my problem. All right? This is your job to keep track of it. It's your job to safeguard it. We will talk about how you might back up some of your work so that you don't lose it, just trying to help you along the way. But keep track of it. Flash drives fail, right? Things happen. I suggest attaching it to your car keys. Pretty hard to leave without it. Then you run the risk of losing your car keys too, but you're probably not going to walk away without your car keys. So do things like that that help keep you responsible for it. Okay? There will occasionally be times where you will need some physical modeling stuff. One of the assignments that we do is we make a cardboard piece of topography. You will need to buy cardboard to do it, and you'll need to laser cut it. The cardboard's available at the bookstore. It's not particularly expensive. When that happens, you probably need some glue. You might need a little X-Acto knife or something. But we can talk through that. Chances are you have access or already have a lot of this stuff, and maybe you're on the hook for $3 or $4 in cardboard, right? Maybe $6 in cardboard. Let's say $10 in cardboard, right? Little bit, right? Not a lot. Additional guidelines for the course. If you're going to be out of class more than 2 weeks, chances are you're not going to do particularly well in the class. So I would suggest withdrawing. If you're going to be absent from the class, you should call or text me and let me know that I'm going to be gone. You can email me too. It just helps me know that I don't need to wait for you to show up. Okay? I would rather wait a couple extra minutes if I know somebody's coming to make sure that they don't miss what I've talked about, right? And if I'm waiting for somebody and you don't show up, it delays everything. So just text me ahead of time. Let me know. It just helps in the overall process. Okay? If more than 3 assignments are not completed, this is probably generous. If more than 2 assignments are not completed, you're probably not going to do very well. I reserve the right to withdraw you from the class or give you an F. Now, this opens another kind of philosophical argument that faculty differ. And I'd like to share my philosophy about this so that hopefully you guys understand where I'm coming from. It's my belief that you guys are all grown-up adults, right? You're in college. It's your responsibility to take control of your life, okay? If you don't do the work, you deserve to fail, right? If you don't show up, likewise, you deserve to fail, okay? It's your responsibility if you want out of the class, if you want to withdraw from the class, to withdraw yourself, okay? I'm not going to mandate or check off boxes, oh, you missed 4 days of class, therefore I'm withdrawing you, right? It's not my job. You do it. Okay? And you accept the consequences. And I think it's just important for you to get used to that. If you move on to Berkeley or Cal Poly, nobody's going to hold your hand. Nobody's going to keep track of you. Nobody's going to know whether you're there or not. You know, imagine a lecture hall of 500 people. They don't care, right? It's your job to be here. You should want to learn. You have a great opportunity to do it. I love being here. I hope you guys learn a ton. People in the past generally really like this class and generally like what they're learning. So I want you to be here and I want you to be motivated. Does that make sense? Okay? So take control of your own destiny. If you want out, withdraw. No big deal. Okay? Generally, if you're doing really bad, I'll try to send you an email saying, hey, you might want to withdraw, when it gets close to that withdraw date. I don't remember what the date is, but it's sometime in like late April or something. Okay? Assignment due dates are going to be announced in class. Assignments are always due at the start of the lecture on the day that they're due. Right? So your assignments are going to be due right before class, so before 11. recognize that I have a whole nother class who's all going to be posting stuff right before. So I would recommend posting it maybe the night before or early in the morning, or give yourself a little bit of time. Don't try to do it right before class so that you can make sure you get it there in time. Okay? If it's late, it is subject to the late policy. I'll talk about that on the next slide. Exercises are due at the end of class, though because this class, a lot of times we're doing a rendering or something, that can slide up until the next class. So as long as you post it, you're going to be fine. Right? I tend to be very lenient on the exercises. The assignments, I won't be. Okay? Recognize that there are about 30 of you, and there is one of me. I will do my very best to get to every single one of you and solve every single one of your individual problems when especially when we get into Vray and I don't understand why this doesn't work. You know, it's some checkbox somewhere. I will do my best to get to all of you. Unfortunately, there are 30 of you and only one of me. It takes me time to get through, right? So the best thing that you can do is lean over to your neighbor and say, hey, do you know how to fix this? Right? I'm stuck here. Can you help me? Right? Because it can save you from doing this for half the class, right? And actually being productive. So ask your neighbors, right? The other thing that's very useful is to Google search whatever the problem is and see if that can solve it, okay? That is not to say that I don't want to help you. It's just a matter of there's a physical problem in terms of the number of people that need my help, okay? I would also suggest that you bring the little book to class every day. There's a bunch of tutorials in it that will help step-by-step walk through what's going on and how to do it. If you have the old version of the book, there may be a few things that are slightly different in nomenclature because Vray 1.1 to Vray 1.5 did some kind of major changes in what things are called. You should be able to pick up on it rather quick. They're kind of the same thing, and I can work through it. Also, if you bring it with you, you can take notes in the margins, and you can say, oh, I checked this box, or I checked that box, or whatever, and that can help you as well. The other thing, and this is probably not relevant to most of you, but any work that you do in this class is covered under Creative Commons license, so you don't have pride of ownership issues. It's just everybody shares everything, and we go on. If you have serious issues about this, I've had problems with this. Maybe 6 years ago I had a problem with this. So since then, I always just put this in there, lay it on the table. If you want to talk about it, we can talk about it. It's not a big deal. Okay. Late work policy. Late assignments and late exercises are graded down by 10%, which is one full letter grade, for each class that they're late. So let's say we had an assignment due on Wednesday. You would post it anytime up until 11 o'clock on Wednesday, and you would get full credit for it. You get an A, okay, whatever it is. If you didn't post it in time, right, and you posted it at 11:30, right, you'd be docked 10%, and if you had gotten an A, you would have gotten a B, okay? You can post anytime up until the following Monday at 11 and still get that B. If you post the following Monday at 11:30, you're going to drop another 10% and get a C. Okay, does that make sense? 10% per day late. Okay? If we go more than 4 days, right, I cap it at 50%. So as long as you do it and turn it in, you'll get 50%. Does that make sense? Right? So it's still always worth actually submitting it and turning it in. Right? It's never worth just blowing it off altogether. Right? The zero is never. Okay, so these are a variety of images of things that we've talked about before. Some of you have already been in Tatiana's fabrication class, so some of this looks familiar probably. We will talk about some fabrication methods and techniques. We'll spend most of our time dealing with renderings rather than fabrications. So we'll spend a lot more time with renderings. You will have the ability to use some pre-made objects. At the same time, I will teach you how to make certain things. So things like pillows and that sort of thing, I'll teach you how to make so that you can make them. There is also a very large library that we're building up of things people have made that you can use, which are always useful. So these are some renderings from a little bit longer ago in this class. I will say that last semester I had probably one of the best batches of renderings I've had. So we're definitely improving. And I'll show you some of those renderings. I apologize, projector doesn't always show things, right? These slides will be posted online so that you can see them later on. So these are all renderings from last semester. I would encourage you to look at them. I also have a book that I bound of all the prints of last year's or last semester's that I'll bring in, so you can look at all the final renderings and get an idea. But they were quite an impressive bunch, and it's definitely worth you spending some time and looking through these, so you get a sense for where we're going. Rendering things like water is very challenging. We're going to talk about how to do that. Glass, reflections, and all that sort of thing. A lot of times people end up putting like this was the rendering that this person did for the skyscraper assignment. You put that on the wall in the other rendering. So you can play around with this stuff. It's fun. So those are some examples of the types of rendering that we're going to do. Okay? So are there any questions? Nobody's stopped me and asked me any questions yet. You don't have to be shy. Okay? So we're going to do an exercise today. It's exercise 201. We're going to take a quick break before we do that, about 10 minutes, so I can get this passed out and get things organized. If you're on the wait list or you want to be on the wait list and you want to enroll, don't leave today without talking to me and getting an ad code. It doesn't appear that there's going to be a problem because I believe I have enough slots for everybody. But just make sure you don't leave because we want to make sure you get enrolled. Okay? So I will start the next demonstration in about 10 minutes. So at about 11:50, 11:52, something like that, I will pass this around and then we'll go from there. Okay?
Yeah, that's what happens. A lot of times you come up with what works for you. And so
use a combination of my phone, iPad, calendar,
there are those of us that have already spent time figuring that stuff out, and there are people who have never even thought about it before. And so that was geared toward people who have never thought about it before.
I'm actually considering putting my flash drive and linking it up with Flash. Tried that yet.
I haven't tried that. I don't know. Yeah. It makes sense. Okay, so we're going to get back started with exercise 202. And I'm going to spend the bulk of my time kind of walking through part 1, and then I'll probably do a little bit on part 2, though part 2, everybody seems to be able to do part 2 quite easily on their own. It's pretty easy. So the big thing is installing the Dropbox portable on your flash drive, and so we're going to kind of walk through that. Now, the Dropbox portable application is not something that's actually written by the Dropbox company. It's written by an independent person who thinks it's really important that we be able to back up our flash drives. And I've been using his software for quite a while. Occasionally, Dropbox, the company, changes something in their API that makes it so that they can't, the Dropbox portable breaks, basically. That happened last fall, the day before we were going to try to install this, so we had to skip that part of it. He has worked out a new version of his software that's a beta version that seems to work quite well in my tests of it, so we're going to try it. The good news is it's not going to do anything to your files, it just will not work if something goes wrong. So the idea is that it will work, though, so we're going to work through it. So I've gone ahead and I've opened up the Digital Life 0.3 tutorial. So I went to Tutorials, Digital Life, and then 0.3. And that's Dropbox Portable. And everything that I'll do is written out step by step here for how you do it. My guess is that most of you already have a Dropbox account. If you don't, you can click on this link and sign up, or you can go to Dropbox.com and sign up with your email. If you don't have a Dropbox account and you want to be really nice to a friend or something, have them give you a referral link because they can get a little bit more space out of it. But anyway, no big deal. The next thing is that this is the Dropbox Portable AHK software. He has his beta version of the software posted in this Google forum. So I've made a link to the Google forum so you can actually go straight there, which is what I will do. Which shows, actually, if you look through it, all the 16,000 views of this forum. There's a lot of people who find this really important, and they all try to collaborate and work on it. So we're joining that community. What we want is the 1.6.8.4 beta. It's the one that's on the top. And if we click on that, it will take us to be able to download. There's a link to download it here, and that's what we're going to download. And I'll click on that, and it will then download onto my computer into my downloads folder. Okay, so it's important to recognize that it's not on my flash drive yet. Okay. So once that's done downloading onto the computer, I'm going to go ahead and show in folder, and since I'm in Chrome, I know it's down here in the corner, you guys can't see it very well, but since I'm in Chrome, there's a little triangle that I can click on, and then there's a menu item for show in folder. Basically all that's doing is opening my downloads folder. You could just as easily go to the start menu and go to computer, and then click on downloads here, and it would take you to the same folder. Okay, so when it's downloaded, it downloads as a zip file, which is a compressed archive of stuff. This will not be the first time in this class that you download a zip file, so we need to get you very familiar with extracting them and using them. And so since it's downloaded as a zip file, the first thing that I'm going to do is not just double click on the file. Windows, in its infinite wisdom, has decided that you can double click on a zip file and it will show you whatever's inside the zip file, but it's not actually extracting the zip file. A Mac, on the other hand, if you double click it, will just extract the zip file and show you the extracted file. Anyway, it's a different can of worms that we don't need to open. Anyway, what I'm going to do is I'm going to right click on the zip file instead, and there's a shortcut menu that goes to extract all, and that's what I want to do. Is I want to click on extract all, and it'll bring up this extract compressed zip folders window, and from there I can specify where I want to extract it. And so I'm going to go ahead and browse and go to my flash drive, which is right there as drive E, and I have a folder called portable apps in my flash drive that I'm going to put it in. Okay, you don't have to have that, it just kind of cleans up my flash drive, so I put it on portable apps, and I go ahead and say OK. And when I do that, and I click extract, it will extract the files for me onto my flash drive, and now I can start to work with these files. Okay, so let me go ahead and go to my flash drive now, and if I look at my flash drive, I've got some stuff that I've saved in here, but I have a portable apps folder, which I'll double click on. And then inside of that portable apps, I have a Dropbox portable AHK folder, which is what I'm going to double click on, which will then get me to the Dropbox portable ahk.exe file, which is the executable file that will actually do the installation for me. So I'm going to double click on that, and it will bring up, in a little bit of time, we have to be patient here, the installer for this portable application. So the installer looks like this. It's the Dropbox portable AHK setup, and we're going to walk through the options here. There's not a lot of options that need a bunch of changes. It's generally pretty straightforward, so it's mostly just clicking next. So I'll go ahead and click next for the first screen. Internet connection profiles, I can click next again. Now we get to the Dropbox folder location, and this is, by the way, all written out right here, so you can go back and look at the images and follow along. Oops, sorry, with what I'm doing. But what I want is I want it to go to a folder called Dropbox at the root of my flash drive, so I know what's being backed up. So right now it's a /Dropbox in this field. I'm just going to get rid of the period, and when I do that, it's going to be my flash drive and then a Dropbox folder. That's what's going to be backed up, which I think is nice and clean, and that's the way I want it. You could keep it inside another folder, it's just harder to find. So I'm going to stick with just the Dropbox. Now your drive might not say E, it might say I, it might say G, it might be a completely different letter, it doesn't make any difference. But it's just the drive letter /Dropbox. So I'll go ahead and click next. It's going to ask, do I have a previous Dropbox folder? Next. It's a flash drive. I don't. Right? I like to check the box for update automatically because I don't like to think about it. And so I just check for update automatically. We'll go ahead and move on. The add-ons, I don't do anything. Right? The user applications, I do nothing. Right? Now we get to this screen, which is the Dropbox application files. And what it will do is when I click on this download Dropbox files, it will go to the Dropbox company and download the actual Dropbox installation stuff. So it's the current version. So this takes a little bit of time. Good news is internet is fairly fast here at DVC, but it's a 68 megabyte download, so I have to be a little bit patient while it goes and gets that information. Below that, I have the ability to pick a color for my Dropbox portable application. Now, personally, I like to pick a different color from the standard color so that I know that this is, in fact, the portable application, not the regular Dropbox. The regular Dropbox icon is this kind of blue color, so I'm going to go ahead and pick like a red color so it's different. You can, of course, pick any color that you want. And we'll go ahead and let this finish downloading. This is the unfortunate problem when you do things live is you have to wait for some stuff to happen. So I'm going to let this go. It looks like a couple of you have questions, so we'll do those while I'm waiting. So it can take a little bit of time once it finishes downloading for it to actually recognize that it's finished downloading. And once that happens, you'll be able to click the next button. But you have to just be patient while it takes time. There we go. So it finished. It looked like it was going to crash for a while. It didn't. So I've picked the red as my icon, and then I'll go ahead and click next. And when I click next, I'm presented with the Start Dropbox Setup box. And when I click on that, it will load up. Yeah, it's going to give me a warning. We'll just say OK. Right? You can read the warning if you want. I've already read it. Now you can click OK. And it will bring up the actual, and it takes a little bit again, the actual Dropbox installation, which looks something like this, which is going to ask you for your account. And I have to type in my account, but in order to do that, I have to look at what my password is. So hold on a second. And then I'll go ahead and click on Sign In. And it will say, congratulations, I've finished. Now, I've been having trouble all this morning when I try to finish this basic installation and I say open Dropbox folder, it'll say, wait a minute, it's not in the right location. If I click choose another location, I can just dump it right onto the computer itself, and I just put it on the C drive. It doesn't matter because it's going on my flash drive anyway, and that's what Dropbox Portable is doing. But without clicking on that, I can't make it finish the installation. So I'll go ahead and say OK, and it will then finish the installation. Right? In which case I can go ahead and click on Finish on the Dropbox Portable AHK. Now, it's going to bring up this, you've successfully set it up, would you like to restart your computer? Earlier today, in my first class, I made the mistake of saying yes. Right? And I had to wait for an hour and a half while this computer decided to restart. So, don't click yes, click no. Right? And then we can move on. Okay? So I'm going to give it a little bit of time and see if it starts to run here, which it should. It's not an instantaneous thing. So in my little tray here, I do have the Dropbox Portable application, but in a second, it's going to actually load up Dropbox itself. So I just have to be a little bit patient while that happens, and then we'll talk through it. Okay, so now I actually have my Dropbox icon. It's right here, right? It's saying Dropbox is running, and it's downloading the file list for me, which is exactly what I want. Okay, so this is running off my flash drive. If I want to eject my flash drive, frequently I'll have to actually stop Dropbox. So I'm going to click on the Dropbox icon, click on this little gear here, and say Exit Dropbox. And then I'm going to go ahead and disconnect my flash drive. And I'm doing this so that you can see it as a fresh plug-in. So I'm safe to remove the hardware. I'll remove my flash drive. Okay? And this is a good way of testing to make sure it actually works. Okay? So once I'm done, I have my flash drive out. Now, every time I come into the lab, and this is something that's a caveat to this whole system, when I plug in my flash drive, Dropbox will not start automatically. The Windows has decided that you can't automatically start an application when you plug in a flash drive. Not really surprised, because if it was a virus or something, it would allow it to automatically start. So it's going to not let me do that. So what I have to do instead is when I look at my flash drive, I actually have to go and I have to open this Dropbox Portable AHK. Now, previously it started the installer. Now it will just start the regular Dropbox. And so what I like to do is I like to actually create a shortcut to this, and then I like to move that shortcut right to the root of my flash drive, and we'll just go right to there, and then I'll have the Dropbox Portable, if I can find it, there it is, and we'll just rename this to be Dropbox to make it easy to click on. Okay, that's optional, but I have that little shortcut called Dropbox. When I plug in my flash drive from now on, every time I'll double click on Dropbox. And when I do that, it's going to take a little bit of time, but it's going to start the Dropbox application, and then everything that I save inside the Dropbox folder will be automatically backed up to Dropbox. Right? And that's what I would recommend you start doing. Right? So what you're going to do is you're going to save things like your Rhino files inside your Dropbox folder. That being said, it's a good idea to have something for the other stuff. And so I'll go ahead while this is starting up and create what's called a resources folder on my flash drive. So let me go ahead and click on new folder, and I'm going to call the folder resources here. And then inside of resources, this is where I'm going to put stuff like Vray materials and what have you. Now, you guys are all aware from last class that there are a bunch of Vray materials that are on the course website. So if you go to the course website, and you go to resources, and we go to Vray materials library, you can browse through and see a bunch of these materials. Now, I thought it would be helpful for you to have a starter pack of materials that contain the most commonly used materials that have been vetted by me and will actually work. So what I did is under resources, there's another link for downloadable resource packages. And so I set up some downloadable resource packages. Such for both classes. You guys are going to be concerned with the 136 section, such that you can download this and extract it to your flash drive, and it is a bunch of materials altogether, right? Rather than having to find them individually. Certainly over time you will add your own materials to this, but for right now we can download the bulk of them. So I'm going to start with the zip archive of the Vray materials. The intuitive thing to do would be to right-click on it and say Save Link As. The problem is this is a Dropbox link, so you actually have to click on the link, and it will take you to a Dropbox page where you can then click on the download link. So I'll click on download, and it's going to download the Vray materials. This is about a 200 megabyte zip file, so it's rather large. That's why I asked you for a 32 gigabyte zip flash drive, so you have plenty of space for this long term. So we'll go ahead and let this download. And once it's done, right, once again I'll click on that little triangle and say show in folder so I can see the zip file itself, which is right here, Vray materials. I'm going to right click on it and say extract all, and I'm going to place it into my flash drive inside that resources folder. So let me go to computer, then to my flash drive, and then to my resources, and that's where I'm going to put this Vray materials. So I'll go ahead and say yes, extract it. And then extract, and this will probably take a little bit longer. I'll go ahead and say yes. So you can see that it's a bunch of files. Now I apologize, I've made these on a Mac, so sometimes you get these little underscore files. I'm just going to go ahead and do this for all. We'll go ahead and copy them. And we really hope it doesn't take 5 hours. Come on, Windows, let's go. So we'll let that start its extraction in the background, assuming that it's going to speed up a little bit. So now that I'm back working, I can confirm that yes, here's my my Dropbox is working. It's downloading files right now. It's syncing. It's right there in the corner. So Dropbox is working. That's great. I'm downloading my resource package here. It's going to end up being on my flash drive inside of my resources folder. There'll be a folder for Vray materials, and inside of that will be all of my Vray materials. It hasn't finished extracting yet, so they're not there yet. Okay, so that's happening in the background. There are a couple other things on the course website that you may find useful as well. You don't have to download these yet because we'll probably get to them a little bit later on in the class. The HDRI background images, there's a collection of those that you may need, but you don't need to do it yet. The materials are the only thing that's really important. And the last thing is what are called visopt files, which are Vray setting files. I've done some presets that will help you quickly load up, you know, I want a certain sun and I want a certain lighting condition and whatever. So again, those two are not really important yet, but I wanted to at least point out that they're there. The one that's important is the materials, so go ahead and try to get the materials today. The materials? Yeah. The materials go just on your flash drive in a resources folder. Right, because you don't want to waste your Dropbox space backing up your materials. It's a repeatable thing. You can get the materials again. Okay, so the one last thing that I'll go over is for part 2 of this exercise 202, and that is installing a calendar on your system. And so what I'm going to do is go to Tutorials Digital Life 0.5, which is calendar feeds. And this will walk you through subscribing to our course calendar feed through either Outlook, if you have a Mac, for iCal, for Google Calendar if you want, or for Yahoo Calendar. So there's a variety of options. You'll scroll to whatever one is important. The key is that you're going to want the A136 link, which is this little bit longer link. The one thing that people had trouble with earlier today was that when they went to copy it, they wound up with an extra space at the end, at the beginning here. And it wouldn't actually load. So be very careful when you select it, just to select up to the H, and then you can copy that address. And then it's a matter of going to your particular calendar and subscribing to it. I would demonstrate it live. The problem is I created the calendar, so I can't really subscribe to my own calendar. So if you have trouble, we can do it, but there is a step-by-step for how you actually go through and add it in each one of these online calendars. So for part 2, I want you to add a calendar. And then for part 3, I'm just asking you to put together a to-do list. If you have your own system that you use, you can just show me your own system that you're actually trying to to be organized. That's fine. If you want to play around with one of the ones that I suggest, you're welcome to try that. If you use your Notes app on your phone to do it, that's fine. I just want to verify that you have started thinking about a to-do list, if that makes sense. So you're going to show me your calendar. You're going to show me whatever it is that you're managing your to-dos in, and you're going to install Dropbox, and then you're free to go. So my guess is it will probably take you the next hour or so, and then you'll probably be able to get out of here a little bit early. Okay? Remember that there is not class next Monday. It's a holiday, so we won't see you. But next Wednesday, we're going to get into Rhino, and we'll start from then on. Basically, it'll be all Rhino stuff, and then ultimately Vray stuff as well. Okay? Are there any global questions? No? Okay, good.